What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. In this one, I want to talk about something, and that is perception. Perception does not always equal reality, but staying grounded in reality is what's going to give you an edge in this market. In this video, I want to talk about some recent examples I've seen of perception versus reality, and hopefully by the end of this video, you guys can see how you can take advantage. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, guys, the first part of this video, or kind of majority of this video, is going to be me ranting a little bit. So do bear with me and do realize that even if I'm not showing something on chart, this can be backed by data, but I do just want to get on my soapbox. We have Bitcoin pulled up on here. We have the 5-day time frame. We have all of our discounted areas that you can see in green, and then obviously you can see how all of those have resolved. I have this up here. It's important because it kind of summarizes what we're going to talk about in this video, and that is perception is not always reality. The perception of crypto, of the crypto market, of the macro environment at each one of these points in time was gloom and doom. But you can see that each one of these points in time, we were able to find a bottom, and that was the bottom of the market. That's where you should have been allocating into the market. Even without me presenting any data, just that statement alone and what you guys can see on chart, you guys should know that we're speaking truth here. By definition, the perception has not always been reality. And by definition, when you see that happen, that's been the best time to allocate into the market. All right, smart money does not care about perception. They only care about reality. And that's why you guys will never see me argue about perception. Things that can be perceived, things that are talked about in a perceptive way are always going to be subjective and opinionated. Do you feel good about the market? Do you feel bad about the market? What's happening in the news? How are you justifying price with what's happening in XYZ war, or what this politician said, or this fundamental thing coming down the pipe, or this potential narrative? How are you justifying it with that? Perception is never going to be important. The perception is never going to make you money. The perception is oftentimes going to wrong foot you. The perception of crypto at the top of the market is that it's going to go on forever and it's extremely bullish and you can't go wrong with buying crypto here. And that's never been the case. Again, we'll show some more niche examples of perception not being reality, but this broad example here, and as we kind of dive into this video, I did want to bring up those points and then show it on Bitcoin's chart here so you guys understood what I was talking about. All right, in my notes here, I have we only care about hard data. We only care about the reality because this is what's actually going to allow us to speculate on what can happen next. Like I said, very rarely in my videos will you see me talk about any sort of fundamental thing that I'm excited about coming down the pipe that might explain why we could go higher in the market. We simply care about the data. We care about what our different data points are at, where they're at, what they're showing us at a given point in time, and how they relate to each other. We've done a good job showing that in Bitcoin. We've shown a variety of other things outside of Bitcoin's chart that should make you bullish, even before we saw bullish momentum show up on Bitcoin in here. Things that we had to kind of, it felt like we were trusting on blind faith at the time, knowing that we were in discount, but we've seen this stuff play out, and that's again at a time where perception was not reality, and this has not fully played out. We're seeing the early signs of that. All right, now moving on to some more broader market ideas. I suppose for this, we can pull up something like the Dow Jones. We'll go ahead and pop over. Let's go ahead to the daily time frame. We talked about a variety of different points we made. I'm talking about this, how it's important to look at the market horizontally. A key level is a key level no matter when we backtest it. And then also the confluence of some of our discounted levels showing up on top of those key level backtests, one of the more recent ones that we had over in March. And this was another time that perception was not reality. I have in my notes over here, University of Michigan study. It's on market sentiment and retail sentiment. Over the last, really since COVID, it's been nothing but down. The average consumer has this idea that everything is gloom and doom, even in the stock market. This is something I haven't seen since really COVID and since 2022. When we talk about kind of like not LARPs, when we kind of talk about these gurus that you see in the financial space, it used to be, I can make you 100x your money or 100,000x your money or this or that. And now everybody is so focused on this huge correction is happening. This 1929 style correction is happening. And my analysis is what's going to protect you guys. And that's what's popular now. This kind of gloom and doom analysis. So we see it even bleeding over in investors' perception of the market. We're so quick to jump on this pessimistic analysis, these studies coming out about the average retail sentiment, extremely pessimistic. Yet we see the stock market perception not being reality. We keep bouncing off of key levels. We keep people, buyers keep stepping in at these discount levels, again, harping on perception not being reality. And I would even argue that the perception being bearish is necessary for the reality to be bullish. So we see the reality, we see the hard data points, and we can factor in that in our analysis and understand that we need to be bullish. We can also use it as a indicator or an indication that our analysis is correct when we look at the broader market and we look at masses and those people are pessimistic or those people are falling victim to the perception of bearishness, when we know that's not where we should really be bearish at. Now, if you want to be bearish into premium, more than welcome. Definitely be my guest to be bearish. I can never argue that being bearish into some sort of premium. Now, were the masses bearish into that premium? I would say not. Now, what changed in between here and here? Time, pain, chop, news, all these things. But you can see the price just simply returned to where it was however many months ago. Nothing actually changed. Nothing fundamentally changed, but people's perception did, and that caused them to get bearish at levels that they were previously bullish at, right? Something I want to talk about, and I think this is going to come into play a lot sooner than people expect, especially when we account for some of the other things that we talked about in my videos this week. Inflation running a little bit hot, some simulation from the Fed, higher for longer, other things having pumped, gold already having pumped, equities having pumped, crypto kind of being this last thing down the risk curve, pointing to, hey, we are getting pretty far down the risk curve. If we do see something like crypto take off, it's going to be important to note that this perception not being reality works both ways. So if the market gets extremely hot and now there's nobody bearish and this doom and gloom content doesn't work anymore, and we get 50% pullbacks out of crypto and people are still bullish, this is a buy the dip opportunity, ignore the macro, it doesn't matter, Bitcoin to $1 million, all of these different things. This is an inverse example of perception not being reality, right? I can, assure you that we're going to be seeing these bearish signs. We're going to be making the exact same claims, just in the inverse direction, and the masses are going to be just as confused, looking at my content like, this guy's an idiot. We were our perception was bearish and he was bullish, and now our perception is bullish and he's bearish, but it doesn't change the fact of the hard data. And that is something that's going to show up in the market, I do believe, sooner than later, as things start to run a little bit hotter than I would like. And we see the kind of broader consensus get extremely bullish, even on pullbacks that are giving us a hard data point, and people's perception remains bullish through that. That's when you guys need to be worried. And I think that is pretty much it. I got one more point here. I kind of already mentioned it, but I'll never argue perception because nobody really cares. It is hard data points only. Once we focus on those hard data points, then we can actually speculate the next move, whether that be price, whether that be what the Fed might do next, which we also did in other videos this week. Once we focus on these hard data points, we're actually able to speculate over what's going to happen outside of perception. Because if we sit here and say, I'm really bearish, man, the news is really bad, and you guys are like, oh yeah, the news is really bad, things don't look good, there's no room for analysis in that. If that's happening, but we're on top of key support while we're sitting in discount, if we're on top of key support while we're sitting in discount, then that's the fact of the matter. We're on top of key support and we're sitting in discount. The perception of the situation, what's happening, doesn't matter, because if that's all we focused on, there's never going to be a good time to invest. The only time we're going to think is a good time to invest is when everybody else also thinks it's a good time to invest. And that might work for a short little period, but in the long run, that's how you're going to end up getting hurt. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Hopefully you guys see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you guys didn't mind me on my soapbox here for a second. Do make sure you guys drop a comment. If you guys have any comments, questions, do make sure you guys subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. Do be on the lookout. We are going to have a paid version of that coming pretty soon. If you guys are enjoying these YouTube videos, you guys are going to get a lot more value out of that. So do be on the lookout for that as well. Link to my free Discord is in my bio. Hope to see you guys in there, and we'll wrap it up See you guys in the next one. Peace out.